When the in-laws gave her a 1,000 house, at midnight, what she discovered will haunt you forever. Kara stood alone at the edge of her new property, the chill of the night wrapping around her like a shroud. A house for just $1,000, it seemed too good to be true. The moonlight cast eerie shadows. The wind whispered secrets through the half-open windows. Each creak of the old wood seemed to echo the deep-rooted mysteries buried within its walls. She took a breath, heart thumping, and stepped inside. The musty scent hit her hard, like a ghostly reminder of forgotten years. Faded wallpaper hung limply, and the floorboards groaned under her weight. But it was the basement that drew her in. A flickering light bulb hung from the ceiling, illuminating the corners like a spotlight on a stage. As she descended the stairs, a cold draft rushed past her, making her shiver. In the dim light, her eyes caught a glimpse of something nestled in the darkness, an antique trunk, dust-covered and locked tight. Why was it down there? What was hiding inside? Her fingers trembled, itching to open it. She swallowed hard, her chest tight with a mix of excitement and dread. Suddenly, a soft thud echoed from behind her, freezing her in place. "Hello?" she called, but the only response was the creaking house, laughing at her fear. Her pulse raced as she scanned the shadows, eyes wide, breath quickening. Was she truly alone? Or was the house alive, watching her every move? She took a step back, bumping into the trunk. It felt wrong. She forced herself to breathe, but the lump in her throat grew larger. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Kara's heart raced as her eyes locked onto a faint inscription on the trunk's surface. It looked familiar, almost as if it was a name or a warning. She leaned in closer, the dim light catching just enough to reveal the letters and name from her past. A chill ran down her spine. What had really happened in this house? What had her in-laws left behind for her to uncover? She felt the weight of history pressing in on her. With a shaky hand, she grasped the rusty latch, ready to unveil the secrets buried within, but a sudden crash echoed from upstairs, making her jump. A cacophony of sounds followed, like 1,000 whispers screaming for her attention. What was going on? She stood frozen, the trunk in one hand, the other clutching her heart. What had she stepped into? The midnight hour was only just beginning, and fear gripped her tighter than ever. Kara's breath hitched in her throat as she stood there, paralyzed by the noise that reverberated through the house. Every nerve in her body was on high alert, urging her to flee, yet her curiosity kept her anchored in place. The trunk felt heavy against her palm, like a lifeline tethering her to the reality she so desperately wanted to escape. With trembling fingers, she wrestled with the latch, but the sound from above demanded her attention. It sounded like footsteps, deliberate and heavy, thudding ominously across the floorboards. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs, like a trapped animal seeking escape. "Hello?" she called again, but her voice barely traveled up the stairwell, swallowed entirely by the darkness around her. A burst of courage propelled her forward. She set the trunk down and climbed the stairs fast, adrenaline fueling her movements. Each step creaked loudly beneath her, echoing in the stillness. The light from the basement flickered, casting ghostly shadows that seemed to stretch and writhe as she ascended. When she reached the top, she stood in the dim hallway, breathless and wide-eyed. The noises had stopped, leaving a suffocating silence in their wake. Goosebumps prickled her skin as she glanced around. The wallpaper peeled back here too, Its floral pattern faded and broken, like a smile hiding a dark secret. "Just an old house," she whispered to herself, trying to soothe her frayed nerves. But deep down, she felt a suffocating oppression, as if something dark lingered just out of sight. Kara moved cautiously toward the source of the earlier sounds, each step echoing her trepidation. The door at the end of the hallway was slightly ajar, a thin line of darkness awaiting her. She reached for the doorknob, her hand hesitating inches from the cold metal, her pulse quickening as dread flooded her senses. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open, cringing as it creaked violently. The room beyond was plunged in shadow, cluttered with forgotten furniture, layers of dust cloaking everything like a tomb. And there a figure stood, back turned to her. "Kara!" The figure spoke, the voice low and gravelly, sending ice down her spine. Who are you?" she stammered, fear freezing her in place. The figure slowly turned, revealing a twisted, familiar face. It was her father-in-law, the last person she would have expected to find here, his eyes dark with secrets. "You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. What are you doing here? What do you know?" she demanded, anger momentarily pushing back fear. "No one told you the truth about this place," he began, but was abruptly cut off by a sudden crash from somewhere deep within the house. The force rattled the walls and made pictures fall from their perches. Her heart raced anew, recognizing that the house was more than just bricks and wood. It was alive, and it wanted something from her. "Get out!" he shouted, his voice rising in panic. But before she could react, the room shook violently, and the lights flickered ominously, casting grotesque shadows across the walls. What truth had he meant? What did the house want from her? An urgent stirring within her compelled her to stay. She needed to uncover the mystery, even as chaos swallowed the world around her. But before she could step further into the unknown, she was jolted by a deafening crack, followed by a deep, rumbling voice that echoed through the hall. "You shouldn't have opened that trunk." Kara's heart raced with terror. What had she unleashed? How far down this rabbit hole would she go before it consumed her entirely? As the walls trembled around her, she braced herself for whatever was to come, knowing she was already too deep to turn back now. Would she find the truth, or would the house claim her as its own? The air thickened around her, stinging with a sharpness that clawed at her throat. Kara's heart pounded like a war drum as she faced her father-in-law, the shadows of the room twisting around him like creeping vines. His expression, twisted in panic, eyes wide and glistening with fear, stood in stark contrast to the familiar, yet unsettling face she had known for years. "What do you mean it's not safe?" she shot back, desperation spiking her voice. The wall behind her trembled, and a crack snaked its way through the aging plaster, as if the house itself was listening, eager to pounce. "This house holds secrets," he breathed, stepping closer but keeping his distance, as if to maintain a barrier against whatever lurked in the corners. "Things that belong to the darkness. Things I wish I never had to know." Kara's breath quickened. "What do you know? Tell me!" But another roar of sound echoed, like thunder enveloping them in a suffocating grip. The lights flickered violently, plunging the room into intervals of stark light and oppressive dark. Her father-in-law flinched at the noise, fear morphing his features. "Your husband was never supposed to come here," he rasped, his voice edged with tremors. "The night we received the trunk, it was a warning. You were never meant to open it. It's been waiting." "Waiting for what? For who?" Kara pressed, a lump tightening in her throat. She felt trapped, like the shadows were circling, whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. Just then, a woman's voice broke through the chaos. "Kara!" It was soft, melodic, yet filled with a haunting sadness. "Help me!" Kara turned, but found no one else in the room. The voice resonated from the walls, echoing in rippling waves that licked at her mind. Who was calling? What was happening? She glanced back at her father-in-law, whose eyes were now wide with dread. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. "Run!" he shouted suddenly, his voice a jagged edge cutting through the thick tension. Before she could comprehend his words, another deafening crash reverberated through the house, and an unfamiliar force surged, knocking her backward. She stumbled hard against the wall, pain lancing through her body as she gasped for breath. "Get out!" He lunged toward her, grabbing her wrist, dragging her toward the door. But the moment they reached the threshold, a dark figure emerged from the shadows. A woman, her face obscured by a veil of tangled hair, stood in the doorway. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered, her voice echoing precisely like the mysterious call that had interrupted them earlier. Kara froze, paralyzed in fear as the figure stepped closer, her skeletal hands reaching out as if to drag her into the darkness. Panic flooded through Kara. What is happening? She felt her pulse racing, heart hammered against her chest, sheer terror white-hot in her veins. "Kara!" Her father-in-law's grip tightened. "We need to leave now." But the house roared in response, and the ground quaked beneath them. Windows shattered, sending a rain of glass down on them like deadly confetti. The woman's hollow eyes locked onto Kara's, a recognition swirling in the depths that shot icy spikes through her body. "Help me!" The words wrapped around her like smoke, intoxicating and overwhelming. Every instinct screamed at her to escape, yet the power of the voice pulled her deeper, as if the house itself had a claim on her, a cruel hold that twisted her emotions and desires. The walls of the house creaked and groaned around them, and in that moment, Kara made a choice. She wrenched free from her father-in-law's grasp and stepped forward, driven by an insatiable need to understand the darkness that grasped at her heart. As she moved closer to the figure, she felt something unlock within her, a thread of fate pulling taut. What awaited her beyond the veil of shadows? Would she discover the truth, or would she succumb to the pull of the house's secrets? She took a step into the abyss, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. But in that moment of choice, the door slammed shut behind her with a thunderous bang, severing her connection to the world outside. Now, tethered to the darkness, Kara was left facing her deepest fears, while the house closed in around her, its whispered secrets begging to be released. Would she find the strength to untangle herself from the nightmare, or would the house consume her entirely? Kara felt the coldness encase her as the door locked behind her, a finality that echoed through the stillness. The figure glided closer, her movements unnaturally fluid, as if she were a shadow with a memory clinging to its form. Every instinct begged Kara to turn and run, but the misery in the woman's eyes pinned her in place. "Help me!" The desperate plea curled around Kara's mind like a vine, and she could feel her heart thumping hard, each beat striking against the haunting stillness of the room. "Help me escape this." The woman paused, her lips curling into a haunting smile that felt wrong. "You have to understand you are of this house now. You open the door." Kara swallowed hard. "What do you mean? What door?" "The trunk." The woman gestured behind her, and for a brief second, the walls flickered. Pictures emerged and twisted, showing glimpses of a family lost to darkness, laughter dated like an echo from long ago, and faces that faded into nightmare. Each wall bore the story of those swallowed whole. Kara's breath caught. "Are these your memories?" "They are the remnants of all who entered." The words flowed like a whisper on the wind. "You must make a choice. Save me, or save yourself." The shadows around the room began to shift, coiling tighter, wrapping around Kara's ankles like restless serpents. A sinking feeling weighed down her gut. The air crackled with tension and memories. Each breath tasted of fear. The woman continued, her voice low and steady amid the chaos. "I was a caretaker once, like you, until I became chained to this place. I wish to be free, but it will require sacrifice." Kara's mind reeled. Images of her family flashed in her mind, laughter, love, long weekends spent grilling in the yard. Was it worth risking everything to help this specter? Was it even her choice to make any more? Why me? Kara demanded, stepping back, her heart racing faster. What do I have that you need? Your connection, the woman murmured, eyes glistening with an otherworldly light. You carry the same burden, the same legacy. The house wants you, but it will not stop with just you. It will take those you love. The realization hit hard, right in the gut. Her husband, her children, they were all at risk. Whatever changed you, it can chain me too, Kara blurted, desperation clawing at her words. If I can save you, I might save my family too. The woman's eyes widened, and in a heartbeat, the shadowy tendrils withdrew slightly, allowing Kara room to breathe. Then step closer. But beware, what you give may cost you more than you understand. Kara hesitated, her mind racing. Shadows clawed at her, gnashing and rattling like dreadful whispers begging for release. Could she really do this? Taking cautious steps forward, she felt the darkness push against her, testing her resolve. The air thickened, almost choking her, as the woman raised her veiled hands. Calling for something unseen, a pull began, dragging both of them toward an unseen void. Kara! Her father-in-law's voice echoed from beyond the door, a frantic fear mingled with determination. Don't do it. You don't know what you're getting into. But the house roared, drowning out his plea. The walls shook with rumbling laughter, the very foundation quivering. Kara was trapped, caught between desperation and the hope of liberation. With a push of will, she reached out to the ghost. I'll help you. Just tell me how. The shadows flickered and twisted, revealing a shimmering thread that linked the woman to the very heart of the house, a tether of anguish and despair. As Kara grasped it, vision blurred, and she found herself tumbling down a spiral of memories torn from the walls. Laughter, screams, cries for help, they all rang in her ears, wrapping her tighter in a suffocating embrace as she began to understand. The darkness was hungry, and it was coming for her. Would she find the strength to face this omnipotent dread, or would she be lost among the echoes and shadows, forever bonded to the fate of the woman who wanted to be free? As visions swirled around her, the house seemed to whisper her name, drowning her. In its cold embrace, one thing became clear: the true battle was only just beginning. Kara felt her world tilt, the echoes of laughter and screams merging into a cacophony that threatened to swallow her whole. She stumbled backward, disoriented as the brilliant visions erupted around her, a kaleidoscope of horror and despair. The shadowy woman reached out, her hand brushing against Kara's, a jolt of icy energy coursing through them both. Follow the thread. It leads to my freedom, the woman urged, urgency in her voice. But it demands sacrifice. Make your choice. Kara struggled to clear her mind, grappling with the memories swirling around like dark clouds. Faces darted in and out of focus: grandparents, children, parents lost in a darkness she couldn't comprehend. She felt the weight of their despair pressing down, urging her forward. What do you mean by sacrifice? She gasped. The shadows whipped around her, whispering secrets of the house, licking at her skin like ghostly flames. Your family, for mine, the woman replied, her eyes gleaming with pain. You have to decide, but this isn't just about saving me. It's more. It's about breaking the cycle. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, a frantic drum rolling toward an uncertain fate. What if I can't save you and keep them safe? Kara's voice cracked, trembling under the weight of her own fear. What if this is a trick? The wall seemed to close and his voices grew louder, a swirling tempest of anger and pleading. They were trapped in the house's twisted grip, and every second was a reminder of the danger her family faced. In that moment, her heart clenched with an agonizing choice, a bond of duty to save the unknown, while risking everything she loved. Please, let me think, she cried, her breath escaping in shudders. The woman's expression shifted, a glimmer of understanding merging with desperation. Time is running out. If you hesitate, the house will choose for you. Trust your heart, Kara. Snapping back to the blurred vision before her, Kara felt a mix of fear and determination course through her veins. It wasn't just her life on the line. Her family depended on her now. Then, amidst the chaos, she spotted a figure on the edges of the memories, a child, her daughter, with bright eyes beginning to fade like a distant star. No, Kara's heart raced as the realization hit her. The house wasn't only feeding on memories. It was actively reaching into her reality, pulling at her family, her husband, her children. The stark horror made her resolve harden. She took a step closer to the ghost, summoning her courage. "I'll help you. But we need a plan. I need to fight this." As Kara clasped the shimmering thread, it vibrated beneath her fingers, resonating with her essence. The ghost's eyes widened, a flicker of hope sparking in the depths of darkness. "Together we can turn the tides, embrace the pain, and use it against this house." The air crackled as the walls writhed, the laughter morphing into a sinister snarl. The network of memories began to pulse, radiating a chaotic force that bordered on overwhelming. Kara felt like she was standing at the edge of an abyss, ready to plunge into madness. But just as she steeled herself for the plunge, something cold pricked her arm. She spun around to find her father-in-law's face peering through the door's narrow window, eyes wide and frantic. But it was too late. Dark shadows surged from the walls, ensnaring her. "Kara!" His voice echoed, laced with urgency and fear. "Please don't lose yourself." In that instant, time froze. The shadows convulsed around her, merging into one shadowy mass that surged towards her, thirsting for her very essence. The woman beside her locked eyes with Kara, the weight of their conjoined fates crystallizing. Together, they could fight, but at what cost? The price of freedom could mean losing everything, and the clock was ticking down to a moment that could shatter her entire world. As the house screamed in protest, Kara grasped the shimmering thread tighter. The looming shadows held promises and threats, weaving an unsettling tapestry of lives intertwined. Would she find the strength to battle the house's consuming hunger, or end up lost among the voices of the past? She took a deep breath, and with every ounce of will, she prepared for the battle ahead. Would she step into the void, or would the unending darkness claim her? Time was fleeting, and the ordeal was only about to begin. Kara's heart raced as the dark mass surged forward, the shadows whispering promises of despair in haunting tones. She could see the twisted figures of her loved ones flicker at the edges of her consciousness, their faces frozen in anguish. The thread she clutched thrummed in her palm, a lifeline straining against the pull of the darkness. "Now!" the ghost commanded. "Use the pain. Channel it." Taking a bold step forward, Kara called upon the memories, the late-night laughter echoing in the kitchen, her daughter's joyful giggle, the warmth of her husband's embrace. Each recollection ignited a fire within her, fueling her courage as she focused on the shimmering thread. It glowed brighter, glowing as hope surged to the surface. "I want to let you take them," she shouted, feeling her voice carry through the suffocating shadows. "I want to be your prey." The shadows hesitated, tightening their grip as if confused by her defiance. They twisted and writhed in response to the energy she unleashed. She poured everything she felt into that thread, the love, the fear, the determination. The eerie laughter turned into piercing shrieks, and for an agonizing moment, it felt like she was winning. But then, the shadows retaliated. A piercing chill descended, cutting through Kara's brave facade. All at once, a wave of despair crashed into her. Memories of loss flooded her mind. She saw the fragile faces of those she had lost, the moments stolen by cruel fate. The air became heavy, dragging her down under the weight of grief. "Remember who you are?" the woman urged, her spectral form flickering as if on the verge of extinction. You are stronger than you know. Kara's grip wavered, but through the haze of sorrow, clarity emerged. I choose my family, she roared, summoning every ounce of her inner strength. I will break this cycle. The house shook violently as if reacting to her declaration, the walls trembling in fear of her resolution. Light exploded from the thread, bright and blinding as it intertwined with the shadows. The eerie contrast set the air ablaze with energy, creating a vortex of chaos around them. In the eye of that storm, she felt time stretch. Her father-in-law's anguished face was still pressed against the window, eyes wide with agony. The flickering anguish pulling at his features was unbearable. Kara! Fight it! He screamed. Fueled by love and an unwavering sense of duty, she directed the power of the thread at the encroaching darkness. The shadows pushed back, but she matched their intensity, the luminous thread weaving a protective cocoon around her, radiating warmth and strength. Suddenly, the shadows screamed, merging together like a whirlpool, and for a split second, everyone was silent. Kara felt the energy sway, and she noticed the ghost beside her solidify, her features becoming clearer, infused with light. We are breaking free, the ghost whispered, her voice echoing with both pain and hope. Trust in this moment. In that heartbeat, they were no longer two entities but one. Kara reached deeper within herself, tapping into the fear and the sorrow, weaponizing it into glorious resolve. The shadows flared dangerously, snarling as she unleashed a wave of light, crashing through them like a fleet of stars against a dark sky. With an explosion, the shadows recoiled, howling in rage and despair. For an eternal moment, it felt as if the world constricted to a single point, vibrating with the combined forces of pain and love. Then, just as swiftly as it began, it was over. Silence wrapped around Kara like a shroud. The shadows receded into dark corners, shriveling away, while the house sighed, releasing its grip. She staggered back, gasping for breath, but relief surged in her chest. The sacrifice, the pain, they had transformed it into liberation. But as she turned to see her father-in-law through the door, she froze. A new figure shifted behind him, a shadow that shouldn't exist, looming large and ominous. It whispered like smoke curling around her heart. You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. Kara's heart plummeted as the chill of dread wrapped around her anew. What other darkness lay ahead? The house was far from finished, and the final test awaited just beyond the threshold. Kara's breath caught in her throat as the shadow loomed, its shape shifting and unfurling like a dark cloud, pressing against her senses. There was no mistaking the malevolence it radiated, a pulse of cold that felt like ice slicing through her bones. She felt the thread in her palm quiver, still warm from her earlier defiance, but its warmth now seemed to battle against an encroaching frost. Stay back, she shouted, her voice trembling but fierce, even as her heart thundered in her chest. It felt surreal, this confrontation within the remnants of her home, a place that had once been filled with laughter and warmth. Now it pulsated with a tension that thickened the air. Such a brave little hero, the shadow crooned, its voice smooth and dripping with malice. You managed to scatter the lesser ones. But did you really think it would be so easy? Did you truly believe you could sever these ties? Kara clenched her fists around the thread, feeling the grounding energy beneath her surface. She remembered the fear that gripped her when she first stood against the darkness. That fear had turned to resolve, and she would not allow it to return. I'm not afraid of you, she declared, her spirit igniting with renewed fury. With that proclamation, the walls around her shuddered, releasing strange echoes that felt like long-buried secrets breaking free. Her family, her memories, all were screaming to be whole again. The moment dripped with potential. The shadow twisted, forming grotesque shapes that flickered like broken dreams. Every choice comes with consequences, dear Kara, it whispered seductively, each word laced with venomous allure. What if I told you that I gave you this power? What if the darkness you loathe is but a fragment of your own making? Kara felt her stomach churn, unease slithering up her spine. Could it be true? Had she somehow birthed these entities with her pain, her grief? She shook her head violently, rejecting the notion. No, this isn't me. You're not real. You thrive on fear. Ah, but your fear is what gives me life, it replied, a wicked grin shaping its fanged maw. The longer you struggle, the stronger I grow. Your loved ones will suffer until you bend to my will. Suddenly shadows surged in all directions. She could see them slipping beneath doors and through cracks, reaching for her family, pulling at their fragile forms silhouetted behind the window. The images twisted, their faces contorting in horror, tears glistening like cruel diamonds in the darkness. No! She screamed, reaching out desperately, but the darkness around her wrapped tighter, constraining her movements. I won't let you touch them. The ghost surged beside her, glowing with a fierce light. Listen to me. It called, its voice a beacon amidst the chaos. You must confront your fears. You must face the truth? Kara froze, her heart pounding. What truth? Was the thing before her truly connected to her? Bits and pieces of memories flared in her mind, memories of whispers and shadows lurking in the corners of her life. She had buried her own darkness, refusing to acknowledge it. This shadow was not just an enemy. It was a part of her she desperately wanted to deny. In that moment, clarity sliced through the despair. I accept the truth, she cried, her voice breaking through the waves of darkness that crashed upon her. Every pain, every loss, I'm stronger because of it. The shadow shrieked, its form destabilizing, becoming less fluid and more frantic. Light burst from Kara with an intensity that momentarily pushed the darkness back. The house shook again, rattling windows and doors, as she felt her connection to the thread strengthen. This was her fight. The figures behind her, her loved ones, glimmered faintly in the light. Their faces looked so scared, so lost. With a surge of confidence, Kara called out, You're safe. I won't let it take you. But even as she shouted, the shadow lunged, and the world spun, immersing her in blackness once more. The fear swelled within her, growing like a monster she could no longer ignore. As the darkness crashed around her, she realized this was not the final fight. It was just the beginning. What will you do now, Kara? The shadow's voice coiled around her again, sinister and haunting. You've only begun to scratch the surface of your true darkness, what awaited her in the depths of her own soul. Would she discover the monster hiding within? Kara clenched her jaw, facing the vast unknown. Kara's surroundings melted into an ink-black void, the depth of darkness swallowing her whole. Her heart raced, thundering against her chest like a drum on repeat. She was aware of the suffocating weight of the void, pressing down and squeezing the breath from her lungs. Panic fluttered at the edges of her mind, but she fought against it, desperate to find herself a foothold in this endless night. Then, as if responding to her will, a shimmering light flickered to life in the distance. It was weak and wavering, but it drew her in like a moth to a flame. With each step, shadows scuttled away from the light, dark tendrils retreating like scared animals. She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the warmth radiating from her palm, where the thread still glimmered faintly, the lifeline she had clung to. Come on, she whispered, urging herself onward. This isn't over, it can't be. The light expanded, revealing a space around her, a familiar room cloaked in an eerie glow. It dawned upon her, it was her childhood bedroom. The walls were lined with posters she once adored. The stuffed animals that had comforted her during childhood nightmares sat on her bed, silent witnesses from a time when darkness was banished by daylight and innocence. But now they felt tarnished, colder in this ghostly light, shadows flickering like flames at the corners of her memory. Kara, a soft voice called out. It was gentle, familiar. You have to wake up. She spun around, seeking the source of the voice. Through the haze, she saw her mother standing at the threshold, her features angelic yet tinged with sadness. Kara's heart clenched. Mom? But the moment she took a step, shadows lunged out, encasing her mother in a shroud of darkness. Kara gasped, reaching out. No! You can't have her. The shadows hissed, pulling her mother's form closer into their grip. See how easily they can be taken? The voice of the shadow taunted, echoing all around her. You want to save them, Kara? You must give in to your fears. It is the only way. No! She yelled, the pulse of energy in her palm tightening. Images flashed through her mind, the laughter of friends, the warmth of family dinners, whispered secrets, the light of joy that had banished her darkness in the past. Each memory ignited her spirit like a match, and she realized then that this was not only the darkness of her fear, but also the shadows of her own choices. Kara focused on the thread, drawing from the strength imbued in her heart. They are with me, she shouted, feeling the warmth spread to every corner of the room. They are the light I carry within. With a surge of determination, she wrenched the light from her core, unleashing it steadfastly into the shadows. A wave of brilliance rippled through the room, illuminating every cranny, as the darkness recoiled, shrieking in fury. But as the shadows dissolved, a new figure emerged. It shimmered with a ghostly demeanor, an older woman, with dark hair flowing like midnight, and eyes that reflected the stars but held a depth of sorrow. She stepped forward, her presence both daunting and enchanting. Who are you? Kara asked, feeling fear creep in again. You hold the essence of your ancestors, the strength forged in their trials, the woman replied, her voice surprisingly soothing amidst the chaos. To confront what lies within, you must first acknowledge the ties that bind you. I am the guardian of your lineage, and your connection to them cannot be severed. Only embraced. Kara's breath hitched. Had she really neglected this part of her? Face them, Kara, the guardian urged. Face the shadows of your own making. And with that, shadows surged anew, swelling into a storm of twisting memories, faces of loved ones lost, choices made in desperation, plots of betrayal intertwined with love. Each image shimmered as they flickered like flames, revealing her past fraught with pain, shadows of regret that had haunted her all this time. As their faces danced before her, chilling and yearning, they implored her to confront the truth she had long buried. Could she endure what lay ahead? Kara took a deep breath, standing firmly rooted. I will face this, she affirmed. All of it. But as she prepared to step forward, the ground beneath her shifted, revealing a gaping darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. Every choice has consequences, Kara, the shadows murmured, weaving a web of doubt and dread. What will you do when the weight of truth crushes you? What awaited her on this treacherous plunge into her soul? The very night might unfold secrets she was too ready to hear. Kara blinked, and as the ground began to crumble beneath her, a violent whirlpool of shadows surged around her. Panic clawed at her throat, but she pushed against the swelling fear, her breath hitching as she prepared to plunge into the abyss of her memories. Face them, the guardian's voice echoed in her ear, a soothing melody swallowed by the chaos surrounding her. But the ground was collapsing, and now she felt the weight of every choice she'd ever made come crashing down. Stand firm, she screamed to herself, anger and anxiety battling within her. You are stronger than this. Just then, she felt the pulsating warmth from the thread in her palm surge anew, bolstering her spirit. Before she could think twice, Kara lunged forward into the gaping maw of darkness. The sensation was instant, a freezing grip around her, pulling her down, shoving her deeper into a past riddled with losses and regrets. Images blurred into one another, a frantic rush of voices and faces she thought she'd forgotten. Her father's stern disappointment, her best friend's betrayal, her mother's tears. Each moment sank its claws into her heart, as if reminding her of everything she'd tried to escape. "Do you think you can outrun us?" A voice sneered, echoing in the chambers of her mind like a cruel joke. "No!" she shouted back, desperation fueling her resolve. "You don't control me." With renewed determination, she focused again on the light within her, pushing back against the frigid tendrils of doubt that licked at her sides. The memories bled together, and suddenly, she stood before her mother's disappointed gaze. The words replayed in a cruel loop. "Why couldn't you just be better?" Heat swelled in her chest. "I tried. I've done my best." With those words, a crack opened in the darkness. The shadows shivered, shifting away from her like a tide pulling from the shore. But as light flooded the scene, the shadows fought back. Her father appeared alongside her mother, their faces a mix of anger and disappointment, each step toward them feeling like a betrayal. "Face the truth?" The guardian's voice rang again, as more shadows surged forward. They twisted into forms her lost friendships, her faltering choices, each a painful reminder of the price of her past. Would she break under this wave, or could she reclaim her truth? "Enough!" Kara roared, feeling the warm glow of the thread spark and crackle in response, igniting every fiber of her being. She remembered the times she had succeeded, the moments of joy, moments of love. The echoes of laughter and celebration pushed their way up, chasing the shadows away with every heartbeat. "I embrace you all," she yelled, the light brightening with each declaration. "The hurt, the love, the mistakes, they are part of who I am." Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, howling like a banshee battling against the sun. She could see their forms dissipating, swirling together before fading into nothingness. But just as the last of the darkness began to retreat, the ground beneath her rocked violently, launching her toward a new image. A chilling feast. A lavish table set for Thanksgiving, overflowing with food, only this time her family was absent. Just like the hollow ache she carried inside. "Your greatest fears will always come home," the shadows murmured, curling back around. "You cannot run from what you've lost." Kara's heart pounded as she stared into the empty faces of those who were once her world around that table, as if they were closer than she'd ever allowed them to be. They reached out, their forms flickering, whispers catching her ears, a cacophony of laughter, disappointment, and guilt in sync like a haunting melody. "Join us," they beckoned darkly, shadows reaching from the depths of her past. Would she take their hands and succumb to the despair, or would she rise above it, claiming the light she had acknowledged? The void split open once more, staring into the hollow of her soul yet again, daring her to choose. But as the voices rose into a shriek, demanding her surrender, Kara felt the boundary between her present and the shadows thinning, threatening to draw her in once more. What truth awaited her in the shadows? Would she unravel or rise to confront the deepest fears that clung to her shattered heart? The choice loomed, a moment hers to seize or relinquish. Kara steadied herself as the darkness swirled menacingly around her, whispering her fears and doubts like a haunting symphony. She could sense the weight of her family's absence, their laughter echoing in a vision now clouded by shadows. The empty chairs and untouched plates at that Thanksgiving feast felt like a physical reminder of loss, a longing sharp enough to pierce through her defiance. "Join us," the shadows taunted, voices dripping with despair. "Embrace the void." With each step forward, the air thickened, becoming harder to breathe. Memories swirled chaotically before her, twisting her stomach and tempting her to give in. Meeting those familiar faces, each one a remnant of joy turned hollow, triggered the rawest of emotions. Longing. Regret. Guilt. "No!" she shouted, stemming the tide of darkness threatening to pull her under. "You do not have power over me. You are not my truth." A pulse of energy flared within her, igniting the warmth of the thread she clutched with desperation. The memories began to flicker, like a candle striving against the wind. She focused on the vibrant moments, the times when her family's laughter had filled the air, the birthdays, the holidays, the hugs. "Everything is part of me," she pressed, the words rising from somewhere deep inside. "The good, the bad, the beauty, I own them all." As she declared this, light burst forth from within, radiating out and pushing against the gathering darkness. For every shadow that dared to inch closer, she released another memory: her husband's warm embrace, the pride she felt watching her children grow, the strength she had shown in the battles she had fought. The sounds of the past began to shift. The laughter, once stifled by pain, pierced through the shadows, echoing like a chorus of support. They surged forward, shifting the air, creating waves of warmth that wrapped around her, pulling her beyond fear. Suddenly, she saw her mother's figure standing behind the table, looking at her not with disappointment, but kind encouragement. "You've always been stronger than you think, my dear," her mother said softly, her voice anchored in truth. "Face this. You hold more than mere shadows. You hold our light." Kara felt the darkness tremble, its confidence faltering at the realization that its power stemmed only from her fear. "You don't define me," she cried again, thrusting her arms out, channeling every ounce of strength she had left. The shadows shrieked as they coiled and twisted around her, writhing like flames licking at their swaddling surface. "You'll regret this. You can't keep them safe." "Yes, I can," she declared. "I will break free of this cycle. No more." Tendrils of darkness lunged at her, but she met them with her light, fighting fiercely against each one as more memories rallied behind her. The threads intertwined into a shimmering canvas of vibrant tapestry of love, loss, strength, and resilience. The shadows shrieked in agony as her resolve solidified into a flame that burned hot and fierce. As Kara emerged into the swirling light, not merely as an avatar of her fear, but as the embodiment of her love and truth, the shadows unleashed their final howl, a cacophony fading into silence. In that instant, the world tilted as light erupted, swallowing the darkness whole. She felt the warmth coursing through her, and as everything around her vibrated, she was enveloped in a cocoon of harmony. Then she saw it, the trunk, the very object that had drawn her into this labyrinth of horrors. She rushed towards it, ripping open the lid with purpose. Inside was a whirlwind of memories, faces of lost ancestors, dreams extinguished, but most importantly, her family's echoes shimmered within, alive and vibrant. Kara noticed that as she claimed her own truth, faced her own shadows, the memories held in the trunk began to untangle. Their light combined into a powerful explosion of brilliance, connecting her to the depths of her being as she held everything past in a delicate balance. The woman who had been bound to the darkness appeared before her, glistening with ethereal light. "You have broken the cycle," she said, her voice now filled with an unprecedented softness. "You have freed not only yourself, but also the remnants of those bound within. Embrace this power, for it is yours alone." As the darkness finally relinquished its grip, Kara felt an overwhelming sense of hope. Her loved ones would be safe. They had been awakened. With every heartbeat, she felt lighter, each layer of pain peeling away, allowing her to breathe deeply once more. Back in the hallway, the house sighed, as if it had finally released a long-dormant breath. The walls shimmered, weaving together to form a connection. The cycle was broken, the balance restored. Kara stumbled back toward the door where her father-in-law stood, eyes wide with disbelief. "Kara," he breathed, and she looked up, knowing she had conquered not just the house, but every fear whispering in her heart. "You're safe," she said, with tears in her eyes, a fierce mixture of relief and joy. "We're free now." The air hummed with a promise of healing as they embraced in a solemn understanding the darkness would no longer keep them captive. "Let us go home," Kara whispered, her heart bursting with love and courage. Together, they stepped out into the moonlit night, feeling the weight of the past shift as the house behind them settled into silence, forever changed. And as they walked away, hand in hand, she knew there would always be shadows, but they no longer measured her worth. This was her rebirth. This was her story. As the camera fades, remember the journey, the trials that lead to triumph. If you found strength in Kara's tale, hit that subscribe button immediately, so you don't miss out on the next exclusive story that will take you on unforgettable journeys. Smash that like button now. Your support feeds the algorithm and helps these stories reach even more souls in need. Flood the comments section. Share your thoughts, your theories, and anything you felt throughout this emotional roller coaster. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who must witness this conclusion. Only true fans will understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.